Exchange. I'm C. Richard Gilchrist, your host. We are so wonderfully blessed today. And I say wonderfully blessed because we have a pioneer in the house. A lady who is now working and has been working for the Hampton Roads Community Foundation for over 13 years. Welcome to the show, Vivian. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here, and thank you for having me on your show today.
Well, tell us first of all, what is the community foundation called the Hampton Roads Community Foundation?
Well, the Hampton Roads Community Foundation was established in 1950. It is a grant and scholarship provider in southeastern Virginia. It's actually the largest in southeastern Virginia. And we give out grants and scholarships to nonprofits and students throughout Hampton Roads, Virginia. Donors from all walks of life, they set up funds. And so we administer those funds through grants and scholarships. And so we also have some leadership initiatives that we also focus on as well: civic engagement, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that's a little bit about the Hampton Roads Community Foundation.
That's excellent. We have to break that down. We got a few minutes to break that down a little bit. When you say you give out grants, you know, the first thing a nonprofit organization and the nonprofit exchange is all about is raising money, because that's what most of the nonprofits want to do. They want to raise some dollars. So tell me a little bit about your grants program, and then we'll get into the scholarship part.
So we have different endowment funds.
Okay.
And so within our community grant program, we use our unrestricted dollars and our field of interest dollars, which are field of interest are specialized areas, whether it's animal welfare, arts and culture, health, human services. And so we use those. We have a grant application guidelines. So we focus on educational success, cultural vitality, health and wellness. And so nonprofits will submit a grant application, and then our board makes that decision. We also have other endowment funds that our donors make the decision for. So when they set up funds with us, which are permanent endowed funds, they can set up designated funds where they designate particular organizations. They also have donor advised funds, which are funds where donors can advise throughout their lifetime, and then they can add their children on if they're no longer around to advise on those funds as well. And then we also have scholarship funds, which we pick the students and we give out scholarships. And then organizations can also set up organizational endowment funds. And actually, the Robert C. Nussbaum Honors College has an endowment fund with us.
Okay.
So.
That's great. I mean, because now I'm not sure everybody who runs a nonprofit knows about the Hampton Roads Community Foundation. So is there some kind of timeline in which people should be kind of aware of, especially for the grants part?
Well, we have different guidelines, different deadlines throughout the year.
Okay.
So we have 4 different deadlines throughout the year. So they can go on our website, www.hamptonroadscf.org, where they can get all the grant guidelines. They can get the deadlines to go on there and apply. And actually right now is our scholarship time where we're reviewing scholarships.
Okay.
So the deadline is passed for scholarships. That was March 1st.
All right.
And so we're in that process of now reviewing scholarship applications. So all that is on our website.
And so now scholarship, meaning that you give out high school graduates. Who are everybody in Hampton Roads eligible for the scholarships if they were to use that as a means of one of the places they could put an application in?
Yeah, so we have probably over 65 or more scholarship funds. So donors would set up scholarship funds for a particular purpose, whatever they want it to be, whether it's merit or need-based scholarships. And so students, depending on what the particular criteria is, so it could be whether you're going to major in accounting, whether you're going to major in engineering. So there are specific guidelines with each scholarship. And so depending on those guidelines, students from Hampton Roads can apply, preferably Southampton Roads, or some are state for Virginia. And so they can apply for those scholarships, and then we review them based on those particular criteria.
You know, I have to regress for just a minute. How did you luck out 13 years ago and start working for a community foundation?
Well, actually, I graduated from Oden University.
Okay.
And so during that time, I got my master's in nonprofit management, public administration, focusing on nonprofit management. And so during that time, I said, okay, I want to go in nonprofit, let me start looking. And when I was going through and I was doing a project when I was at ODU and I was part of the project looking for grants and things like that, I came across the Hampton Roads Community Foundation. So now when it was time for me to actually start looking for something, I said, hey, the Hampton Roads Community Foundation, let me try there. And so I applied and got the position at that time. And so
Where'd you start?
So I started as kind of a grants administrator.
Okay.
And so I helped in the grants department. And then I moved up and started working in donor engagement, working with donors, helping them with their giving.
Okay.
And then now I'm vice president for special projects.
Wow. So and at some point we're going to get into special projects because I know that that's one of the things that you're working on right now. But I just wanted the audience to get a real clear picture of what the Hampton Roads Community Foundation is all about, because this is an opportunity by listening to a show like this to hear from somebody like yourself who's been there 13 years now and's got an opportunity to say, how's it been? What have you seen in terms of both the African American community and the majority community working with the foundation? Because one of the key things that I found out about the foundation was you give people an opportunity to actually come and sit down with the people at the foundation just to discuss something.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit and just keep that one going. That sounded great too.
Yes. So at the Hampton Roads Community Foundation, we have what's called Drop-In Day.
Yes.
It's the first Thursday of each month, unless that Thursday falls on the holiday. And so we allow nonprofits or people that are interested in applying for grants, or they're not sure about a particular idea, where they can come in, speak with a program officer, and just kind of bounce ideas off of that program officer. If they know that they're going to apply for a particular grant, then they have that opportunity to kind of go through that application process to make sure that they're on the right page before they submit it. So it's just kind of allowing the community to come into the foundation. We're open, come in, and we're wanting to learn from nonprofits, and we want them to learn from us.
So that's every first Thursday?
Yes, every first Thursday of the month, unless there's a holiday. Yes.
So now, everybody put that on your calendar now. You got an open invitation to go down and find out what the Hampton Roads Community Foundation is all about, but also to discuss your ideas as to what it is that you're thinking about doing that you think is going to be helpful to the community. Because, I mean, this is what it's all about. Most people start a nonprofit organization about helping some kind of issue in the community.
That's correct. That's correct. Because many times people have ideas, but they need to tailor those ideas.
Right.
And so at the foundation, we're here to help you try to tailor those ideas. See if maybe you need to collaborate with someone else that maybe is doing the same thing, or just be able to learn what else is going on out in the community. And so this is a great opportunity to do that. So I encourage people to use the drop-in day to come into the foundation.
So now the next part that I see is that this whole idea of collaboration. Over the course of your time here, then what kind of collaborations have you seen, and what kind of collaborations are you seeing happen, kind of like in the future?
Right. So we have all different type of collaborations we had during the year or the past few years in early childhood education.
Okay.
So we did work with, now the organization is Minus 9 to 5. So we did a lot of work with them, trying to get kids and students ready for kindergarten.
Okay.
And so we also did work in Park Place community, trying to bring and help the residents in that community, having a voice and being out in the community. And so throughout the years, we tried to bring in nonprofits together to work together, whether it's in animal welfare, whether it's in the arts. So trying to figure out ways where we can bring those collaborations together that we have done throughout the years.
Okay. Now that sounds really great, because a lot of times you'll hear about organizations having one organization doing one thing, one doing the same thing, and they don't collaborate.
Right.
And so we find that, I mean, it's almost like McDonald's. They got a store on about 4 or 5 corners. That's because they're trying to service the bigger population.
Right.
And we've got to start thinking about it that same way, that we are serving. Just take homeless, for example. If we wanted to do a homeless project and we wanted to take and just do it in, let's say, in the Ocean View area, but there's homeless people in the Virginia Beach area, there's homeless people in the Norfolk area, and all these different neighborhoods. So you can't have one homeless shelter because they're spread out. So do you do that type of collaboration?
Yeah, we try to. I mean, some cities might need, a shelter.
Right.
But if one shelter is doing a particular program well, we encourage, don't recreate something that's already working, to learn from them, maybe collaborate on a program. So yes, where there's collaboration or we see that collaboration opportunity,
Right.
we do encourage that, and we try to bring those people together.
So now let's move on to your special projects a little bit, because I think that if you look back at the history of your 13 years, nevertheless the whole history of the thing, special projects have been a kind of a thing for community foundations. What kinds of special projects have you looked at in the past, and what are you at to now?
So the different special projects were kind of our collaboration type projects that I mentioned before, as far as the early childhood education initiative around that. We also have Reinvent Hampton Roads, that we really looked into bringing business community together, and then the whole Park Place initiative as well. And so now we're moving more into diversity, equity, inclusion. One of our values is justice, looking at advancing equity and inclusion. And so really wanted to focus on that. And so that's what I'm really focusing on now as Vice President for Special Projects.
All right, so we got a little bit of time, so we're going to ask you to talk about Reinvent Hampton Roads first, and then come back to the ones you're working on now. What was Reinvent Hampton Roads?
So Reinvent Hampton Roads was really looking at businesses and job opportunities in Hampton Roads and how to leverage that. And so bringing the business community together to look at that. And so that out of that initiative came an organization, which is now Reinvent Hampton Roads.
Oh, okay.
So that was really looking at the business community and helping with job opportunities in Hampton Roads community. We have the military, we have colleges here. So really creating those opportunities that when students graduate from college, or where people might get out the military, that they have those opportunities there available for them.
Okay, so that organization now exists.
Yes.
After a special project, now you have an organization that actually is carrying this out.
That's correct.
Okay, so if people wanted to find out more about that organization, do they contact you, or do they just look that up on the internet?
They have their own website. It's their own organization. Reinvent Hampton Roads is the organization, and so they can go online and look at the organization.
All right, very good. Now we can come forward here. Now we go to what? Diversity. Keep going.
Equity and inclusion.
And inclusion. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's try them one at a time. What's equity?
So when you look at equity, many times people get equity and equality mixed up.
Yes.
So they use them interchangeably. So I would say someone equity, and then they're like, yeah, equality. And so it's good to have it as a picture where people can visualize it. Right. But I say that want to go first with equality. Equality is looking at opportunity for all people, giving them the same opportunity, regardless of what background they're from. You're giving them the same opportunity. Equity is really looking at giving people opportunity to succeed, but giving the opportunity that they need, what's going to make them successful. So if you think about a ballpark, and you think about someone that's really tall, you think about someone's really short, and then you think about someone in the middle, and now they're trying to look over a fence.
Okay.
And so you give them all one block to stand on. The tall person probably can look over their fence, but the short and the middle-sized person cannot. So if you give them the same platform, you're giving something equal, but that's not equity. Okay. So now you see, how can you get the short person to look over the fence, and then the middle person to look over the fence. You give them enough blocks where they can stand over, and now they can look over the fence just like the tall person. So you're making it, you're giving them equity, you're giving them opportunity where they can succeed, what they need to succeed, and that's equity.
So if I define that a little bit more with the so-called community, some of the communities need a little bit more equity than others. So if we broke that into dollars and cents and said, okay, the taller guy may need $100, where the middle guy might need $300, because that community or that person is trying to get equity in terms of what it is that they're trying to do.
That's correct.
Have you done some kind, has one of your special projects done some kind of diversity study that shows how equity could be distributed in the Hampton Roads area?
No, not yet. We have not done a diversity study. It's still new for us. We're still in the early phases. And so as we move forward further in our work within diversity, equity, inclusion, then maybe a study or something can come out of that.
Okay. So now we've talked about inclusion. How are you included, folks?
So it's including everyone at the table and allowing them to have their voice.
Yes.
So many times people use diversity and they go in and they say, okay, we're going to need this person, that person, that person. Look, we have diversity. But if all those people do not feel like they have a voice and they are included, then you really don't have inclusion. And many times people might have tokenism.
Okay.
Where they're just trying to make a quota for diversity, but you're not actually including the people. So we're trying to include different people at the table, hearing their voice, listening to them, including them at the process, listening to different nonprofits, including them at the table as much as possible. Drop-in day, including them, allowing them to come in and talk to the foundation.
Okay. So now the inclusion part sounds like if you started to look at ways in which some of the issues that most people have in their community, you find that in mostly every community there's either unemployment, housing, and education. Those three are like universal almost in most of the communities. What then is the foundation trying to do in order to look at the inclusion of some of those activities?
So, and don't forget healthcare. Healthcare is another, it's a huge one as well.
Yes,
so,
we won't leave that one out. But I mean, we say economic development, businesses, well, we can do that list. So how have you tried to do this, and what's your future plan for that?
Well, we're still, as mentioned, we're still at the early stages of it, and so we're still trying to determine what that looks like for the community foundation.
Okay.
But within our grants in the past, within our grant and our funding, we're trying to create opportunities for people in the community through our grant guidelines, through educational success, through health and wellness, through cultural vitality. So looking at different of our program areas that we have, we look at that to try to have inclusion or try to include. But as far as actually having a program around diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're still in the early stages.
Okay.
And so as time goes on, it will be built up.
We're going to build that one up.
Yes.
So now, tell me about some of the activities that you think you're going to look at in terms of the future to kind of build that up. Because I understand it's something that you're about to have on I think it was some part of April.
Yes, so one way is that we want to start involving the community.
Okay.
We are having an event on April 2nd, 2019, at the L. Douglas Wilder Performing Arts Center. So we're partnering with Norfolk State and the Robert T. Nussbaum Honors College. And so we're bringing a documentary called America to Me.
Okay.
And so we're going to do a screening of America to Me. And after the screening, we're going to have a panel discussion. And so it's really focusing on racial equity in education.
Okay. So now, how do you want us to respond to that? Do you want the whole house to be filled up by having people come? Or are you going to videotape it and actually put it out on social media afterwards? You know, what is the inclusion and what is the kind of like the marketing plan for this?
So for the America to Me event, we want people to come. We encourage people to come to the event on April 2nd. And not only just come to the conversation and watch the film, but we also want people to walk away with some action. So we also want to inspire people to take action and how they can improve education in the community, and also how they can hopefully inspire change from people. But so it's not going to be videotaped, but we will have, we encourage people to come out, come to the event, and be a part of discussion. You know, to be a part of racial equity and education discussion that will hopefully lead to more dialogue and more conversation and more change in the community. And so there will be a panel. So just a little bit about the panel.
Right.
So the panel will be moderated by Barbara Hamley, who is, she's the host of WHRV's Another View.
Yes.
And so she'll be moderating a panel of 4 people. We have Vivian Andrew Fullwood, who is the owner of All Academics Plus.
Okay.
And we also have Maya Hayes, who is actually a Norfolk State student through the Honors College. And then we have Rodney Jordan. He is on the Norfolk Public School Board.
Okay.
And then finally we have Dr. Aaron Spence. He is the Virginia Beach Superintendent. And then we're also bringing 2 people. Those are our local panel. Right. But we're also bringing 2 people from the film who will be here as well as special guests. Keyshawn Kuzma, who's one of the students that's being followed in the film. Okay. And then also his mother, Daniel Robinson, who is actually in the documentary as well.
Great. So what's the, the outcome that you're looking for by presenting this?
So the outcome that I am and the foundation is looking for by offering this event is to have dialogue around racial equity and inclusion in education, and then also after that, not just having dialogue, but walking away inspired to go out there and make change. Get involved in your school system, tutor, mentor, look at ways that you can get involved as well, and then hopefully this will amount to change. So people seeing change in Hampton Roads around racial equity and education. There was something that I saw, an article where they say that as the W.K. Kellogg Foundation put out a study or a report, and it said that there's a $23 billion gap in funding between white and non-white school districts nationwide. Right. And so just seeing that racial equity in education is important.
Well, if you look at that pipeline they were talking about in terms of kids going into jails, that's a whole ball of wax that has been put out there. What do we do about that? And what is the foundation ready to do? What is the community ready to do? And what is the foundation ready to support that would help curve that pipeline from, middle school? I think they said about I guess the middle school grade, if you can get up to about the 3rd or 4th grade, if you've missed so many days in school, and if your grades were bad, they set up a prison cell for you. 4th grade.
Wow.
So, wow. I mean, that's awesome. And that was the whole point of this whole racial equity, because when we look at racial equity, we start looking at who's going to those prisons at 3rd and 4th grade.
Correct.
That they're setting it up for people of color most of the time. So we've talked about this a lot. We've produced films on it, but whether or not we've done something to actually monitor how many people are going there and to bring that number down is another story.
Right. And so that equates to not just having dialogue,
right,
but also taking action. So you have that change. People say we can talk, and we can have conversations and dialogue, which is great. Right. We need to start the conversation, or we need to continue the conversation. So it's great, but now we need to take the next step and also actually take action. So we can have change in the community.
So as director of special projects, I'm gonna have to put you on the spot a little bit here. At the end of this after all is done, what action do you see yourself recommending to the foundation as director of special projects? especially when you know that all of these discussions have gone on. The biggest problem is now, how do you put them into action? So what kind of action things, and maybe you can't answer that one right now, but at least think about that from the standpoint of the feedback that you get from the audience. And they're going to say, okay, we gave you the feedback, now publish something that says, here's the action plan as to what we're going to do about it. Because I think that that's a real interesting piece that we've talked about a number of these issues. I mean, I'm in my late years, and I've been hearing about some of these things since I was 13 and 14 years old. I mean, we've been talking about employment. We've been talking about, healthcare. Year after year after year. Yes, we've made some progress. I can't say we have not made any progress, but there's still progress that needs to be made, and we need to find out what kind of progress are we actually looking for over the next, 5 to 10 years.
Right, and that's true, and this helps the foundation. So we want to be able to listen to the community. We're a community foundation,
right.
So we want to hear from the community and hear from them, listen to the questions, listen to the panel, and then use that as a way as we start thinking toward the future and how we're going to look at addressing diversity, equity, inclusion, racial equity, addressing those different topics. This will help us as we start planning and looking toward the future for doing that. And so this is a first step for us doing that. And then we're just going to use this as a stepping stone and keep going. So.
That's great. And, and we're going to give that address and that number out again. But before we move on, we got a few more minutes left. And I want you to talk about how people in the community can now set up their own funds, set up their own issues. The churches in the community, the sororities, the Moose organizations, the different other organizations, how can they begin to support the Hampton Roads Community Foundation by setting up their own funds, designating funds, and even some of the older people who are about to pass on, can they set up a fund within the organization? Is there some dollar amount that you have to have? Is there some specific legal document that you have to sign? What is the process in which, a lot of churches, some of these churches in here have been in this area for 100 years, longer. Could they set up a fund within the Hampton Roads Community Foundation?
Yes. So, yes, churches can set up funds at the Hampton Roads Community Foundation. Organizations can set up funds at the Hampton Roads Community Foundation. And so we have organizational endowment funds, where organizations can come in and set up endowment funds, and then they can use that money each year to be able to support the work that they're doing in the community.
So tell them what an endowment fund is first, so they know what that means.
Okay, so an endowment fund is a fund where they set up the fund and then we invest that fund. And so we use some of the fund that we hold that we're investing, and then the other amount where they're able to take a percentage each year to be able to do work in their community for their organization. So that's one way that an organization can set up a fund with us. There is a particular dollar amount that they would need to be able to set up that fund. And then individuals can also set up funds with the foundation. They can set up scholarship fund. They can set up a field of interest fund, which they're focusing on a particular field of interest, whether it's animal welfare, culture, health, human services. They can also set up a designated fund where they can designate their church if they want to do that. And then they can also set up an unrestricted fund where they are interested in the foundation to be able to administer those grants within our community grant program. And so they allow the foundation to make that decision. And then we also have the donor advised fund, where donors can advise throughout their lifetime. And so the minimum to set up a fund, the minimum is $25,000 for most of our funds. But I encourage them to go on our website. They can also call the foundation, 757-622-7951, and speak
One more time.
757-622-7951. And they can speak with our Vice President for Development, Kay Stein, and she can help them and walk them through the whole entire process.
Now, some people don't have $25,000 right in their hand, but if they took that money and started to pay on that, in other words, to set up the fund they want to put it in to let's say they want to put $10,000 down and then, grow that over the course of a 5-year or 2-year period before they actually set the fund up. Is that available?
Well, they can. There's all different type of options.
Okay.
So I encourage them to speak with Kay, and
Okay.
she can kind of walk them through the different options that they have. If they don't have the 25,000, they can always give to an existing fund that we have at the foundation. So we have several different funds that might be of interest to them as well, where they can give. Some people partner with family members. Some people work with other people in the community where they set up funds together. So there's all different type of options that I encourage them to look into and research.
Well, on a particular day in April, there's going to be an equity conference or a screening. Tell us again what date that is and what time and where at.
So yes, the event will be April 2nd, 2019, 7 p.m. at the L. Douglas Wilder Performing Arts Center on the campus of Norfolk State University. We are partnering with Norfolk State University and the Robert C. Honors Nussbaum College, and our presenting sponsor is Norfolk Southern Corporation. I do not want to forget them. They're our presenting sponsor. And so it's 7 p.m. at the L. Douglas Wilder Performing Arts Center on April 2nd. I encourage everyone, it's free, it's open to the public. I encourage you to come out. We just require that you register in advance. So the deadline for registration is March 26th. So you can go on our website at www.hamptonroadscf.org. That's www.hamptonroadscf.org.
You've been listening to the Nonprofit Exchange. I'm your host, C. Richard Gilchrist, and thank you so much, Ms. Vivian, for being a part of the show today, and keep listening.
Thank you for having me.